the more you're willing to fail and to embarrass yourself and to fall down and to get up, and you just that, the more you're gonna have successes, to show for it.
Meet Dr. Kami Hoss.
Orthodontist, entrepreneur, and creator of the Super Dentist and Supermouth.
From building a dental empire to launching a viral oral care brand, he's on a mission to reinvent how America thinks about oral health, one smile at a time.
Being successful is hard, but you know what's harder? Being poor. You cannot be successful without failure. In this day and age, you need to work harder and smarter, because no one's gonna sit there for you to be smarter. So you gotta work smarter, you gotta work harder. You need to make yourself out, be your own competition. Find something that you love it and you're passionate, and then share it. We have a problem, share it, get advisors, get coaches. The knowledge I could give them in that day would be worth sometimes millions of dollars, but they're not willing to wake up. So everybody wants success, but they don't understand you have to put in the work. If you put in the work, you can do anything. I went from like a boring dentist to a super dentist.
How did you start Super Dentist?
Inspiring business leaders, voices that move the world forward.
Welcome to Inspiring Business Leaders. Today I have Dr. Kami Hoss, the Super Dentist of San Diego. Boy, we've worked on some incredible projects over the years, haven't we?
Seriously.
The movie,
I know.
anchor video, music videos.
Lots of stuff.
It's been amazing.
And now maybe some AI stuff. So I'm really excited.
We're talking. We just had that AI meeting. It's incredible what AI is doing these days.
But even before the AI stuff, the movie we did together was like, I'm just so proud of that.
Me too.
I still watch it once in a while.
Yeah.
And it's like, so when we go to dental conferences, it's always in a loop. In dental offices on the TV loop, it's a really, really amazing, heartwarming, full of humor and heart. Yeah, it's a great movie. I love it.
I just went to help underprivileged children in the Barrio Logan area. And,
wow, amazing.
About being a content creator. And I showed them the Supermouth trailer. And they knew who you were. They're like, oh, that's a Super Dentist.
Are you serious?
Yeah, like 5 of the kids in each classroom went to the Super Dentist.
I love it.
It was like instant brand recognition. They're like, I know who that is.
I think in San Diego, 24% of all the kids in the county of San Diego goes to one of our locations.
Well,
it's
that would make
crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's with I think 87 other pediatric dentists in San Diego.
Jeez.
Yeah,
you really. I want to talk about that success. That's
good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So first, let's talk about why you want to be a dentist, and more in particular a pediatric dentist, where you went to school and how you started Super Dentist.
Sure. So I actually never wanted to be a dentist when I was a kid. I always tell my son, when I was like 10, 12, I think I wanted to be a pilot. Then I wanted to be an architect. Then I actually started college, UCLA undergrad, as an engineering major because my dad is an engineer. He's an MBA, he's a textile engineer. So I was a chemical engineering major. And I almost, even though I went to UCLA and I was pretty good student, but I hated school. I went to this really, really tough all-boys Catholic school growing up, 7 years or 8 years. And so my view of school was I had to do it because our fathers would hit me if I didn't do it. And it was more of a forced, education. So I just grew up really not enjoying, going to school at all. So I wanted to get my bachelor's degree in engineering. That was just a requirement that from my parents that you have to go to college, But then, so what happened was I was dating my current wife back then as my girlfriend, and she was pre-med. She was, on the other hand, very into studying. And so she was going to go to medical school, and then we figured we were kind of concerned that if she wanted to go to medical school, she may have to move to a different state because it's kind of not easy to get into every medical school. And then we didn't want that happen. So I don't know what happened. I don't remember exactly how long it took, but at some point I changed my mind. I didn't like engineering because it was boring. And I decided to, and as you probably know, I'm a musician. I play the piano, so I like art. That's what one of the reasons we like each other, probably we get along, right? Because we have an artistic kind of an interest. And then, so we both decided to go to dental school. So she changed it from medical school to pre-dental school, and I changed it from engineering to pre-dent. And then we applied to dental school. And so I got accepted to UCLA, and then she ended up going to USC. And even the first 2 years of dental school, I was pretty much just going to school. I was sitting all the way at the end of the class at UCLA, really just getting by basically, but not really being into it. Until one day that changed my life. That just tells you how important one person could be in your life. I was sitting in the back, sipping on my cup of coffee I had just become a coffee drinker, because second year in dental schools is the hardest year, and you have to either you drink caffeine or you fall behind everybody else, right? So I was drinking it, and then I remember this day, this tall guy with red mustache walked in, put a jukebox, put like a boombox on the counter, and then he started a slideshow, 15 minutes of how orthodontics changes people's lives, like before and after. That 15 minutes changed my life. I don't know if it was the music, the way he did it, the storytelling that he did.
That's awesome.
I'm like, oh my God, that's what I want to do. So after that, the class was over, I ran to the front. I told, his name was Dr. Patrick Turley. I said, he's like a orthodontist. He was the chairman of the orthodontic department. I said, what do I need to do? I want to become an orthodontist. He's like, yeah, you and everybody else. Ortho is the hardest specialty of dentistry.
Wow.
So if you want to get into it, you have to be in the top 3-4% of the class, and you have to get this. So I'm like, that's it. So I completely went from passively going to school to like studying very hard, like every night. I didn't go out on the weekends, and I turned myself into like the biggest bookworm in my class over the next year. And then I applied to orthodontic school, and then I became an orthodontist. So that's kind of my story.
Wow. Did you go to orthodontics in UCLA?
I went to USC.
Oh,
So my
USC.
wife was
Yeah.
at USC already studying
yeah.
dental school. I went to USC for my orthodontic residency. Now, she happened to always love kids and wanted to be a pediatric dentist. She continued her pediatric residency or specialty at USC, and then we ended up graduating together.
Wow.
And in fact, there's a funny story about that. So when I was graduating, I had this, usually in dental schools or medical schools or any schools really, they don't teach you anything about business, unfortunately, in the United States or anywhere in the world, really. That's a shame, right? We go to all these years of school and we learn about geography and math and everything except how to run a business or how to,
So true.
It's so ridiculous.
It's
That's
so
why-
ridiculous.
No wonder most people live paycheck to paycheck. So,
Even if they have their college degree, unfortunately,
really,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even
I agree.
especially sometimes, right? Because you have
Yeah.
all of that debt you have to
lot.
pay, which is really absolutely crazy. I don't know who's come up with this model, but it's absolutely a nightmare. Anyways, luckily for us, we had 2 years of practice management classes during my residency, which was very unique. So when I was graduating, I was very confident not just as an orthodontist, but as someone that was going to open a dental practice. But we had a practice consultant as part of this education. She sat me down. She said, Kami, I'm going to give you 3 pieces of advice because I really like you. Before you this is your graduation present. I said, sure, I'm all ears. She said, the first advice is don't go to San Diego. I said, why? She said, do you know anybody in San Diego? I said, no. She said, that's why, because you grew up in LA, you went to school here, all your family, friends are here, you're going to need referrals. Why do you want to go somewhere that you don't know anybody? I'm like, I don't know, I got a job offer in San Diego. She said, I said, what is the second one? She said, don't ever work with your wife. I said, why? She said, because other than the fact that obvious, because she's your wife and you guys going to get conflicts in the work environment, because you're an orthodontist, she's a pediatric dentist, if somebody refers you a patient, let's just say a general dentist, refers an orthodontist for braces, well, that family is going to come to me and then going to say, oh, your wife is a pediatric dentist. I'm going to just stay and go to her, don't want to go back to my own dentist. Well, that's the last time that dentist is going to refer to you. So that model is never going to work for you. And then the third thing she said is make sure you take general dentists out for like taking care of them for lunches and basically making sure that they're happy so they refer to you, right? So I moved to San Diego the next week and my wife and I started working together. After 3 months, I recognized that the third advice wasn't also very effective because it would have taken me years to build relationship with dentists. So that's always when people ask me for advice, that I've been now around like 30 years, I always tell them this story before I give them advice to make sure they understand that they got to take every advice with a grain of salt, including mine.
Wow. So you didn't listen to any of the advice?
No.
Yeah, and you're still successful.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it just tells you that I think, everybody, you live your own life and you have to listen to your own heart and your own brain. I love taking advice. In fact, you probably know because you work with me and everybody in my company, if you ask them, they say I'm the most collaborative person.
Yeah.
What I mean by is like if I want to make a decision, I always get everybody's input, like the people that I feel like they have the knowledge in that area or they have the experience. Of course, I make a decision finally, but I always like to hear everybody's perspective on things. It's always made me make better decisions. But that doesn't mean as soon as they give me advice, I just follow it.
Right.
I take the advice, I take different points of views, and then I decide, okay, based on different points of views, now I've heard both sides of it. I feel like this is the right way of doing it, is this way, and then we make it.
I can confirm that's true.
Yeah.
After working with you for so many years.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's your style. It's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I know you take our feedback and our advice, but you bring back what you think is right for you and your
Which is
brand.
the way it should be, right?
It should be. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, I love that. So you moved here. How did you start Super Dentist?
Okay, that's another really cool, funny story. Do you remember what Kinko's is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The printer.
The printer.
The printer.
Before everybody had a computer and a printer, we would go to this place that we would have computers and printers, right? Like basically. So, or a computer with like software, with Adobe Illustrator.
Yeah.
Like,
Boy, how times have changed.
how times have changed. Yeah. Everybody has it on their phone now. Or AI. Just making me this character, right? So, anyways, when we were graduating, I got a job offer in San Diego. That's how I ended up in San Diego. One of my professors said, "Hey, Kami, I want to give you a job in San Diego." I said, "Where, in La Jolla?" He said, "No, in Chula Vista." I'm like, "Where's Chula Vista?" He said, "Different parts of San Diego." I'm like, "Okay." So I went to told my wife, "Nosy, Dr. Grob gave me a job offer in San Diego." She said, "Where, in La Jolla?" I said, "No, in Chula Vista." She said, "Where the heck is Chula Vista?" I said, "I don't know. We got to go find out." So I told my parents that night, "Dad, one of my professors gave me a job offer in San Diego." He said, "Where, in La Jolla?" I swear to God, everybody knows San Diego by La Jolla. So that's how I ended up in Chula Vista, like when we first moved here. But anyways, before I was moving, we went to Kinko's in Los Angeles, in Westwood, to make a logo. So I had a friend of mine that was in graphic design school, because we're friends, we couldn't afford like actually so I'm like, "Hey, can you make us a logo?" He's like, "Yeah, let's go to Kinko's." So we went to Kinko's, and he designed us a tooth fairy. So one thing, if you know me at all, you know that I'm into like innovation and uniqueness and creativity. So that's why I like Apple, at least when Steve Jobs was alive, because I hate copiers. So when he said tooth fairy, I'm like, no, I don't want any tooth fairy, any teeth, any smile, because every dentist has that, right, in their logo. And I'm like, so my wife, which she's usually not involved in our creative stuff, she's more of a financial part of our practice, but her last name is Carey. So she said, "What about Tooth Carey instead of Tooth Fairy?" Because it was rhyme, And I'm like, "Oh my God, this is not a fairy. This is a superhero." So I asked my friend. We took the skirt off the Tooth Fairy. We put pants on her. We gave her like a little bit more of a structure of muscle, and we gave her a toothbrush. And our first character was born. Even though we didn't call it Super Dentist, it was the Tooth Carry. So then that night, I remember when I was driving to San Diego to kind of find a apartment. I was so excited I couldn't sleep. I'm like, "Oh my God, we're going to build a whole world of superheroes in our dental practice as an orthopedic practice. It's going to be so cool," because nobody had done it by then. And so then we made that character. Then all of our ads said, "Come meet the Tooth Carry." And we made this really cute invitation, which was a little curtains of going away. And the tooth. So we did these little really interesting graphics. It was back then very handmade, but the creativity was there. So people really got interested in a lot of little creative things that we were doing until we got some competition. So 2 or 3 years went by. We were fairly busy and fairly decently successful, in a couple of years in Chula Vista, the other part of San Diego, until a dentist, a general dentist, went and opened a practice across the street called Tooth Fairy. And then so I didn't even know that it was like 1 block away from our dental practice. The way I found out about it is I would have patients tell me, "Oh, Dr. Hoss, your office was closed on Saturday, so I went to your Tooth Fairy office." And the first couple times when I heard it, I'm like, I thought they sometimes made a mistake saying Tooth Fairy instead of Tooth Carry. And then I'm like, "What do you mean Saturday? That Saturday we were not open. Which Tooth Fairy office you get?" They gave me, and I'm like, looked it up. Yeah, sure enough, this general dentist who was not even a specialist, and we're a specialist, I think he figured, our Tooth Carry is becoming so popular, and he wanted to take advantage of our branding.
Wow.
And it was so bad.
So bad.
So I got so upset. I called my attorney. He's like, "Too bad. You should have picked a better name." I called the dental board to complain. They said, "Too bad. Tooth Fairy is a common name. You can't do anything. You should have picked a different name." So I'm like, I was struggling to figure out what to do to compete. So I went to my wife. I'm like, "Nosli, we need to make a movie." She's like, what do you mean? What about what? I said, about superhero movies. Like, she said, but no one's gonna watch a movie coming. You always come up with these crazy ideas. I'm like, no, I'm gonna make it about superhero dentists. So she's kind of camera shy. She said, do I have to be in the film? I said, just like one line. I'll just write a short line. So anyway, so I wrote a movie called The Candy Apple Incident. We shot it with one of my friends again, like because of low budget, we had zero budget. It was my patients and my staff who acted in it. It was so bad, I've never shown it to anybody. So my wife said, I told you so. But then I went to her, I'm like, hey, Nozi, idea is good. We just need a little bit of professional help. So I had one of my patients was an anchor woman on TV, and then she helped me bring in another one of her friends for $11,000. We rewrote the movie, hired a couple of actors, and we made a movie, and we titled the movie The Super Dentist. So it was a movie. So back then I was also young and naive. It was the weekend that The Incredibles, the original Pixar was coming out.
It's a great Pixar.
So I went to a Chula Vista movie theater, and I talked them into showing our movie for a weekend before The Incredibles. And they said, fine. Because, it was like I was young, and I think I was like, at this point, I would be scared to ask him because I thought because I'm going to think they're going to say no. But back then, I didn't know, like, they could say no. So not only they did that, they allowed us to put movie posters, and we made the whole theme around the super dentist meet the Incredibles. So we did this whole, like, red carpet. We were passing out toothbrushes in the movie theater. So overnight, this happened. Within a week or two, I would go to my office and I would go see a patient. The parents would say, Dr. Hoss, before you do that, can we take a picture with you? Or can we have an autograph? So I went from like a boring dentist to the super dentist. So people started calling our practice the super dentist. And before we knew it, I called the California Dental Board. I said, we want to rebrand as the super dentist. And they denied us. They said in California, you can't call yourself superior or better or no pain, stuff like that. So then I had to spend several months arguing with them that I'm not saying I'm better. This is a superhero thing. It's not superior. I literally copied the definition of super and superior from dictionary because back then there was no online. So I argued with them. They finally bought it. So they approved the super dentist as the name of our practice. That's how we came up with the super dentist. And then the next thing is we built a character around my character. Well, for the movie, we actually built a character for my character because it was in the movie. My last name is Dr. Hoss, Hoss. So we came up with Dr. Have One Super Smile based on the acronym. And that was the super dentist. And then, of course, when that took off, we're like, well, we need a villain. So we came up with Cavatar, and then we started theming our office, and one thing led to another. Before we knew it, we had all these offices, these characters. We had movies, augmented reality, comic books. And then I met you through it.
Then we did the movie.
Exactly.
That was awesome.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, look, I know sometimes kids say the darndest things. Are there anything that kids have said to you when they've come in that's memorable, like when they see the super dentist or?
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story. So in Chula Vista, when I told you I kind of like coffee now, because since dental school the second year. So one of my favorite coffee shops used to be Coffee Bean. Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf.
Yeah.
I don't know if they closed a bunch of them after COVID, but in Chula Vista, where I had a practice in Eastlake, the Coffee Bean was inside of a Krispy Kreme donut shop. So now, before I tell you this funny story, is that to provide the context, is in the movies, we show that just like any superhero, we have our own kryptonite, right? For Superman is his kryptonite. For us, it's sugar. So for if I have sugar, it weakens my superpowers. And by the way, my superpower is X-ray vision. But don't worry, I've turned it off so I can sit comfortably here. So anyway, I was in I was in the Krispy Kreme donut shop, waiting to get a cup of coffee. But this family came in the morning with like 3 or 4 kids, and the dad walks to me and says, "My kids are asking, how come the super dentist is at the donut shop? Isn't sugar your kryptonite?" So I'm like, "Tell them I'm here to spy on Cavatar. I'm just here to get a cup of coffee." So they actually called me out on. Yeah, it was like really.
That's a great one.
Yeah, so they truly believe, or they would get, like, when I would go see them, many times they would think that I'm wearing my superhero uniform underneath my shirt, because that's how we would do it in the movie. So they truly buy into the story. I mean, kids are so imaginative. Sometimes, even though we don't have like sometimes specific things, they would come up with their own imagination added to the movie or stories.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it has it inspires. I think your
Exactly.
brand inspires kids.
That's right.
Yeah, they see something about what you've produced in themselves, maybe.
Exactly.
You know, they see that superhero in themselves, and it reflects. on them.
100%.
But none of this was by accident. Maybe you got lucky sometimes, but I'm sure along the process there was some heartache and there was some suffering building this.
of
Maybe
course.
work. Did you work a lot? Was it always good with your wife? Did
no,
you? I
it's-
mean, how many
yeah.
hours were you working a day to build this business?
Yeah. Like everything. The more successes you have, the more failures you
Yeah.
have along the way. I was just talking about it with my son. My son is 13. And one of the good things is, as I'm a little bit of an older dad, so I was able to share all my experiences with him, especially like this new company. He's been involved like from day one. And he's seen a lot of the failures because nothing's easy. And we always talk about it that being successful is hard, but you know what's harder? Being poor. Right?
That's true.
Because working hard is hard, but what's harder is not working. Being healthy is hard, but being not healthy is much harder. So you just got to find which hard you want to do. You want to be hard and successful and healthy, or you want to have a hard life but be poor and unhealthy, right?
Yeah.
So I've tried at least, but so many failures. I mean, I don't know, like where do we even I start? I can give you an example that you can relate because I think you've known me since that happened. So when we launched this new company, this is just one example. I mean, maybe, so one of what really pushed me to start this new company, the oral care product company, Supermouth, is when my son was born, I realized that there's nothing that's safe and effective, even though I was telling people to take a fluoride toothpaste before that. It's very different when you have your own kid. Now I was really concerned about what goes in his mouth, not just what my teachers told me when I was in school. So that's when I realized, oh my God, there's a need. And then I wrote my book, which became a #1 national bestseller about oral health systemic health. So I saw the need with my son and the desire. And then I became knowledgeable about oral care and oral care products because when I was writing my book, I had to read like 800 articles and books. So that was the knowledge. But what really gave me the drive and the fire to do it was when COVID happened. By then we had like 300 employees in my dental practice. And this is aside from a few other businesses. So all of a sudden, everything's fine on a Saturday. We go, I remember I took Aiden, my son, to ice skating. It's that Saturday that all of a sudden in San Diego, we went from 5 COVID cases to 20 COVID cases. Mm-hmm. And we went from like, this is in Asia to like, oh, maybe this one is actually coming to US. That weekend, everything that turned, I think it was March 3rd or 5th of 2020. And I remember we had an emergency call with my managers. I said, what are we going to do? This virus is going around. We said, why don't we close Monday and Tuesday, make sure this virus kind of goes away before we reopen. So we closed it, and then that turned into like all of a sudden by Wednesday, California got closed, and then by Thursday the whole nation got shut down, and then we were the rest of it. So I was in a desperate like a lot of people, like we had all these debts, like I won't tell you how many, just a lot, and I had 300 employees that were their livelihoods that were counting on us, right? Their whole family. And we had never let them down. And I had never fired a person, other than if they were not, performing, but not because I wanted to lay them off because we're not doing well. I mean, it never in our career. So I felt like a responsibility not only to them, to our own family, to all of the banks. That whole career. It was a lot of stress. So once, and I didn't know if our dental offices were closed for 2 months or 2 years, because I remember New York Times had an article that said that other than the first responders, dentists had the most dangerous jobs. Because imagine their mouth is open and there's coughing and spitting and you're drilling and there's blood and saliva going through every orifice, right? So nobody in fact, when the dental offices even opened, nobody wanted to go back. Doctors didn't want to go back. My staff didn't want to go back. The patients didn't want to come back. Luckily, teeth hurt after a while, so they had to come back. Yeah. But anyways, so that's when I realized, oh my God, this one thing that I was because sometimes, especially of course we've had so many headaches. I can share with you whatever you want, but but for a while our practices were really growing and we were like really dominating. And so when this happened, it came from like out of nowhere, and all of a sudden I had all these debt and stresses, and I promised myself that I would find a opportunity within this biggest challenge. Is one of our biggest challenges in life. So I remember I'm in a CEO group, with like a bunch of other CEOs, like 10, 12 people that we used to always meet monthly. I remember we had like weekly meetings during the crisis. And I remember after the first few weeks, once the major crisis went away and I knew we were at least going to open up our dental practices, I turned from my focus from survival to like, what do we need? How can we take advantage of this challenges? The biggest challenge of our life is COVID. There must be the biggest opportunity of our lives also here somewhere. So I kept asking the question. So I finally said, well, what can I do that uses my knowledge? But if something, God forbid, like there's another natural disaster or war or like whatever, God forbid, I can survive, So I'm like, what can I do online that uses my knowledge and I can experience? Because that's another thing. I didn't want to start from the beginning. I've had 30 years of experience in a certain thing. That's kind of like was the beginning of Supermouth, was having, because the number one disease in the world, which is almost entirely preventable, is dental diseases. That's according to the World Health Organization. Cavities and gum disease. It's the most common chronic disease of kids. And so I feel like, wow, no one, whatever Colgate and Crest and Sonicare and natural companies are doing is not working. It's not me saying it's not working. The disease that they're supposed to fix, and it's almost entirely preventable, it's not fixed. It's in fact the number one disease. I feel like I have a unique knowledge about how to fix it, about customization of products, really having safe and effective products. We had the whole gamification to get the kids excited about using their products. And so that was the beginning of Supermouth. And before you knew it, it went from one product to 200 products, 300 patents, and a really revolutionary set of products and the way we provided and a business model for the doctors to join us, etc.
Amazing. You mentioned Aiden, and I know he's here with us. We might get him up here, but you mentioned something about him helping you actually with R&D and some ideas.
A lot.
Tell me a little bit about that.
So Aiden, I'm not saying that just because it's my son, seriously. Maybe I'm a little biased, but not too biased. He is really bright, and he can pick things up, and he's very honest about it. So he can tell you if he doesn't like something, he'll tell you, but he tells you a good reason why. So like I remember, like I'll give you an example. So when we were trying to come up with some toothpaste flavors, I went to Aiden because I'm like, this is going to be for kids, because we first started with kids and then we expanded to adults. Well, let me ask kids what do they like instead of me. So I went to him and I'm like, what flavor do you think I should have for my toothpaste? And he's like, chocolate, because he used to love chocolate, was a chocoholic before. He's not anymore. He's super healthy now, and he eats chocolate, but he has like, it's 100% chocolate and no like sugar in it now. But anyways, back then, I'm like, Aiden, no one's going to put chocolate as a toothpaste in his mouth. Or he's like, no, kids are going to like it. So I swear, I went to my wife. I'm like, you know what? Aiden was so excited about this. I'm going to do it. I don't think it's going to be successful. I think I'm just going to do it because I don't want to let him down. So I made a chocolate toothpaste. Whenever I would tell someone I'm going to make a chocolate toothpaste, they said, come here, you're crazy. And who wants to put... Richard, it's our number one sold product is our toothpaste. So now we have chocolate toothpaste, chocolate mouthwash, which takes like chocolate milkshake, chocolate floss, chocolate mouth spray, everything chocolate now.
Well, no. I mean, but traditionally, you're not supposed to be eating your dental care, right? I mean, what happens if the kids like just say, I want to eat the chocolate toothpaste?
Yeah. So our ingredients are so safe. Other than one, we have fluoride products too, but our non-fluoride free products, every single ingredient so if you want to know if the products you put in your body or on your body, like from shampoo to toothpaste, if they're safe or not, it's not just natural, because cocaine is natural, it's not safe, right? Tobacco, alcohol, sugar, thousands of things are natural, but they're incredibly poisonous, they're incredibly unsafe. So there's an organization called EWG, Environmental Working Group. So if you go to ewg.org, there's a database. Any ingredient, if you're wondering if it's safe or not, you put it in. They give you, based on thousands of studies, a ranking of 1 to 10. 1 being the safest, 10 being the most toxic. Fluoride is a 2, just FYI. Peppermint oil, which a lot of companies use to mint their flavors, is a 5. Is 2.5 times more toxic than fluoride. PTFE, which is Teflon, is the brand name, which is used on like Oral-B Glide floss, which is the most popular floss, is a 10 out of 10. It's a forever chemical. So people, that's why this whole fluoride versus non-fluoride debate is so absurd, because people are concentrating on this one ingredient, they're losing out on all these other ones. But regardless, other than this one ingredient, which is a 2, every single ingredient, every product we have is a 1, which means it's literally safer than water. So you can eat your, and I don't recommend you eat our toothpaste, but because you do anyways, about 30% of the toothpaste and mouthwash gets swallowed because it just gets mixed with your saliva. So our mouthwash and toothpaste, in fact, if you look at our reviews, people say this tastes so good, I want to swallow it because it tastes like our mouthwash tastes like chocolate milk. And so like going back to my son, and he'll tell you everything I just literally 2 days ago we have the new formulation of something I haven't tasted. He has a very good sense of unique feedback. Like, hey, this is too good, this is too hard, the floss is too thick, I like this, I don't like it, until you tell you. So yeah, he's been my partner, and the good thing with it is because he's with me a lot, I drive him to school and back, he's also on conversations when I'm on the, so I feel like he's getting a business degree just from the beginning, and he's seen all, and in a startup he sees more failures than he does successes, right? Because he knows, I mean, I originally thought I would be a lot more ahead than we are right now, but because I'm optimistic. Any entrepreneur, you need to be optimistic, otherwise it's so hard to do things, and you're not going to do it if you think realistically.
Right. So
I'll give you an example of a big failure that I worked very hard, and it was I was just telling Aiden today that it's still on my mind, is we wanted to break the world record, the Guinness World Record. It took us 6 months of preparation. It was the most number of people flossing. So we did so much consulting. We got the Padres Stadium, in San Diego to agree to it. We had over 15, we needed like 800 people to floss at the same time. We had over 1,500 people reserved, all signed up. I mean, can you imagine what kind of coordination? We had Guinness come.
I was there.
Yeah, I remember.
Filmed it, yeah.
From the representative, they came. It took us months of preparation. I had all of my heart because we were going to use that as a huge marketing. And of course, who doesn't want to have a world record? And then you know what happened? 2 days before the event, we had invited everybody at, let's just say, I don't remember the details. It was 10 o'clock and then Padres was going to start at 12, let's just say. They decided to do it 2 hours later, so they moved it to 2 o'clock. All of a sudden, we had everybody come at 10, but they had to wait, instead of like half an hour to get to the floss, 4 hours. So from 1,500 people, we lost all these people to 600. So we were short 200 for the world record. It had nothing to do. So that was that really sucked, because I had family members drive from Los Angeles. All of my friends were invited. It's embarrassing, like all of a sudden, I felt like I kind of like let everybody down, that because everybody wanted to be part of the world record. That's why they were there.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so that's just one example, but I can give you hundreds of these examples.
Well, how does a winner deal with failure though? Like I'm sure it affects you. I'm sure
it affects you, but you learn that without failures. So I just sent my son a little infograph, these little cartoons. It showed 3 people, okay, like it's a cartoon. 90% of people, what they do, 90% of people, let's just say they want to throw an arrow to a target. They're too scared to even fail, so they don't even do it. That's 90% of people. They didn't even take this step. Let's just say they think they're going to, if they talk in front of people, they're going to shake or get embarrassed, which, by the way, I used to be super... A lot of people, when they meet me now, when I tell them I was the shyest and the most introvert person in the world, I would cancel things because I didn't want to even say my name. And I'll tell you, if you want to know about that, how I kind of over time got over it. But anyways, so 90% are in that group. They never even take the step because they don't want to fail.
They don't take the shot.
They don't take the shot. 9%, they take a shot, they fail, they said, that's it. I'm a failure, this is that, that's not me, I don't have any talent. They're done. 1%, they fail, they fail, they fail, they fail, they fail until they succeed. And then they celebrate, and then people say, oh my God, look, he's so lucky. Because they worked the hardest and they failed the most.
Yeah.
This is not, I mean, every single person you can imagine. Look at Steve Jobs. Look at Michael Jordan, arguably the most successful basketball player ever, right? I was telling my son, one of my friend's son was in a taekwondo. This is when he was a little kid. And he got knocked out like within 30 seconds. And he was crying. He was like a 10-year-old kid. I found this Michael Jordan quote, online somewhere, and then I shared it with him. He says that I've missed so many shots. I've failed this, and I did. He goes over exact statistics, like 20,340 times a pass was given to me. I lost it. And I failed this one. I failed. And this is why I'm the most successful basketball player in the world. It's not because I made all these shots, because I failed 100 times more. So it's all a numbers game, right? The more you're willing to fail and to embarrass yourself and to fall down and to get up, and the more you're gonna have successes, to show for it, right?
Sure.
So I gave him. I remember when he was stopped crying and we had dinner that night. I shared this story and I told him and then I don't know, somehow that got to him. He worked so hard the next year. He won that championship in Taekwondo the next year. Isn't that amazing? Because he understood the idea that you cannot be successful without failure. So I think all of us who learned that lesson early on, like in that shyness that I told you, I'll tell you a quick story. I was so shy that when I graduated from my residence, I was 30 years old. When I moved to Chula Vista, a dentist wanted to introduce me to other dentists, so they would refer to me. And he said, "Come to my office. I'm gonna have a few people. Just introduce yourself." I called him. I'm so embarrassed to say it even now. I called him. I said, "I have a cold. I can't come," because the idea that I have to stand up and introduce myself to 4 people was so embarrassing. Now I talk in front of hundreds of thousands of people in dental conferences. But from there, it took me 10 years of taking classes, reading books, going to Toastmasters. And then now it's so funny because people, when they see me, they're like, "Kwame, you're so social. And how could," I'm like, that I had to see I went to psychologists. Seriously. I saw psychologists for like a year or two. I read hundreds of books on how to get over your shyness. But I gotta tell you something interesting. I read a statistics that 98% of billionaires are introverts. Wow. So it's a requirement if you want to be successful, because shyness, what is shyness? What is introvert? Is that you're overthinking everything, right? That's all it is. Because instead of just me talking in front of people, I'm going to say, well, what happens if somebody doesn't like me? What happens if I don't? You're over criticizing yourself. So some of that is actually really useful to be successful. Yeah. Because you want to criticize yourself. Otherwise, the public is going to do it and your customers are going to do it. Now, you have to learn how to, the social skills so you can, because we live in a society. So what happened is I still have my base of introvert, but I've learned to be very social. That's why a lot of people think I'm kidding when I tell them deep down, I'm actually a shy person. But when you meet me, you don't think that mostly in this age and age. Because also, when you're a kid and you're in college, you don't have the confidence because you just haven't built anything. But the more you build things and the more successes you have along the way, obviously it helps your confidence. I also have that as a reason. But I've had to actually learn. And it's a good thing, because when you're not good at something and you learn it, I think you can have a capacity to become even better at it. Because if you're good at something, you don't put the energy for it, right? If you're average in swimming, you're pretty good. But if you're not, maybe you put so much energy to get better that you become world class. Yeah. So that's a kind of an insight.
That's awesome. I never heard that about you. I thought I knew you so well, Kwame.
A lot of people think I'm kidding when I tell them, like, no, seriously, I would be, because you won't believe it. I talk at dental conferences. At least half a dozen people afterwards come to me, Dr. Hoss, we wish we were that good in talking in front of people. I'm like, I wasn't. You think this is like I was born with it? It just took 10 years of practice. That's it. If you're willing to put the practice, you can be. But people, the same thing. People tell me, call me, my good friends, call me. I want to be successful. What can I do? I say, do you want me to show you? Yes. Okay. Like I have some farming business, for example. I say, you want me to take you to my farms? And then I show you what I do. They're like, yes, call me, please. I'm like, sure. So I call them and say, hey, Saturday, you have anything to do? No. Let's go. What time? 4 o'clock in the morning. 4 o'clock? Yeah, that's why I have to take a flight because 4 o'clock is too early. I'm like, well, that's when I'm going. No, so I'm like, they don't want to even one day get up early. The knowledge I could give them in that day would be worth sometimes millions of dollars, but they're not willing to wake up. So people don't, from the outside, it's just everybody wants success, but they don't understand you have to put in the work. If you put in the work, you can do anything. You can learn anything, right?
Yeah. So I want to go on that a little bit. I like where you're going with that. I mean, in your adult life, I mean, 4 a.m., how much are you working on a busy week? I mean, how many hours a day are you willing to put in?
I wake up at 4:30.
And then you work till how long?
Till 5. And then I'm like, brrr.
Okay.
So I love to like hang out with first of all, when Aiden goes to school, I pick him up every single time myself, unless I'm out of town. Because I just love that we live 45 minutes away. So that at least gives me an hour and a half to 2 hours, because he also has classes, to spend time with each other. That's like precious time. Because, I feel like we talk, we listen to music, we discuss things, politics, religion, music, business, it's kind of like really cool. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, the reason I get up every morning is because, you remember I said I was going through life passively, but since I found my passion, I'm so excited. Like when I was doing dentistry, I was an orthodontist, I loved it. Now, as a founder of Supermouth, we have about 300 patents. It's crazy. It's crazy in 4 years, 5 years, what we've done. How? Because I'm so excited that we have something unique that I can imagine. If you had the cure to cancer, wouldn't you be so excited to get up every morning and try to get this to the world? I have the cure to reduce cancer by 25%, reduce Alzheimer's by 17%, cardiovascular disease by 30%, because they're all related to oral health. So I feel like the cure to all it, I can, CDC thinks if we if we fix oral health in the United States, we can save $1 trillion a year in medical expenses related to oral health. So that's what gets me excited, right? Because I feel like I have so much to give to society, and I don't have enough. I'm 58. I have another 20 years of maybe full energy. So I feel like I don't have that much time. I really need to work really hard, not because I have to, because I want to and I love it. And I feel like it's such an incredible thing that I could give back to the society and help, and of course make money in the process. And that's really one of the reasons I'm so excited every morning to get to work. But because I'm a morning person, everything happens early. So I'm like around 4 or 5, like my energy goes down, and then I like to hang out, like watch TV. It's so funny. A lot of people say, I don't have any TVs in my house. I only read. I'm like, okay, good. I read a lot of books. I read probably 100 books a year, but I watch every movie. And I've made so much movie just by watching TV and movies. So I don't think that's right. I mean, people, you can learn from something. I've learned so many good ideas from like movie scenes. I'll give you an example. I was watching a movie about a show on, I think it was on Showtime, about how Uber was created. It's called like Super Pumped or I was struggling in our company about how do we have a business model with our dental professionals. I got the idea from Uber. I don't know if you know the story of Uber, but Uber started in San Francisco. They were called Uber Cabs because they thought they're a cab company. And so but the cab organization or association, whatever they're called, they started saying, no, you guys can't do that because you're putting all the other cab people out of business, your model. And they're like, well, so anyway, they got into a fight. So the cab organizations, which they were part of, they started penalizing them $5,000 per ride. So they were make $5. They were owing the organization $5,000. So all of a sudden they had $800 million debt, I believe. Something crazy. It's like close to $1 billion in debt. So they were going to file bankrupt. They couldn't survive. So they brought in this fixer. I mean, again, maybe the movie is a little bit exaggerated, but anyways, I got what I wanted out of it. So they brought the fixer, and the fixer studied Uber cabs and said, he came to the CEO of Uber. He said, I found a solution for your problem. And the CEO of Uber said, what is it? He said, you guys are not a cab company. We're like, what do you mean? We're a cab company. He's like, no. He's like, what are we? He's like, you are a ride-sharing company. He's like, what the heck is that? He's like, because we just invented it. He's like, what does that mean? What is the benefit? He's like, the benefit of it is, as a ride-sharing company, you don't have to follow the cab rules. So they bankrupted Uber cabs. They established Uber. They said, this is a new industry. This is not a cab model. We don't have... So the cab organization sued them and they lost in court that this is a new model of business.
Wow.
So that's what happened. So they created a whole new model. So anyways, without getting too much detail, there was a way that we were doing things that I didn't know how to get around it. I created a completely different way of doing it. And that's how we've been doing something, a business model that we have in our company. So anyway, so that's just to tell you that you don't have to just learn things from books. You can learn it from movies. You can learn it from friends. Yeah. You can learn it from your kids. You can learn it from your significant other, and from people who do things right and the people who do things wrong.
That's a good way to look at it. Speaking of people, was there anybody in your life, a father, a mentor, a business person, a professor? Like, is there anybody in your life that really stood out to you on giving you good work ethics, vision, purpose? Like anybody in particular, or like a famous person or somebody personally you know that has been your mentor?
People. I am very, I am like that. I kind of look up to people. Like growing up, my mom, of course, from an emotional love, amazing. But from a business perspective, my dad. So I'll tell you, my dad grew up in a village that his dad died when he was 4 years old. He was very poor. In the village, they only had school until the 5th grade. He had to go to a closer, another village for an hour to even bring water in like buckets. Wow. So that's the environment he grew up. Remember, his mother was illiterate, so my grandmother was completely illiterate from my dad's side. So he ended up going to Harvard for his MBA. My dad. So from being born to an illiterate mom, your dad dies at 4. The city you live in only has school until 5th grade, all the way to Harvard MBA. So that was my role model growing up. So you can imagine, I can tell you an hour of all the stories what he had to, the struggles he went through, but it just tells you that sometimes struggles make you a man, right, or a woman, make you who you are. So through his determination and how determined he was because he very early on learned that the way to his survival was education. So he was he had to really get good grades in the first 5 years to get to a nearest city to go to middle school, and then nearest city to go to high school, and then to Tehran. This is, by the way, in Iran. And then in college, he was so good that he got a scholarship to go to Harvard for his MBA. I mean, just that tells you what a unbelievable. So that was, of course, one person that's huge, of course.
Well, what would he tell you? Were there lessons he was giving you? Or
honestly, it's more of a...
Was it action? You just saw him in action.
Action.
He didn't even have to talk.
Exactly. It's not what, as a parent, what I've learned is with my own son even, it's not what I tell him he does. He's going to do what I do. I need to be the good role model, right? Mm-hmm. I can help him. I can plant seeds, but he is who he is. But hopefully, if we do the right things and he sees that ultimately he compares people, right? Hey, look, my dad, he works this hard. He wakes up every morning at 4:30 and he's happy. He's giving, he's he's balanced in his life, and he spends time with me, and maybe some of my friends, they don't. So maybe this is the correct way, right? The result, he sees it. But he also sees the struggles. As I said, nothing's easy, but this hard is better than the other hard maybe, right?
Yeah.
So that was one person that's been very obviously influential in my career. Obviously, if I want advice, I'll always get my. But he's never sat me down and says, "Call me, I want to give you business lessons."
Really?
Never.
Wow.
Never.
Oh, man.
But I've been absorbing as his behavior, the way he talks, when he discusses things with his friends. Of course, you're always it's passively being absorbed in my cells, right? So that's one person. Obviously, a lot of my teachers, some of my teachers. I remember I had a 5th grade instruct, one of the fathers in my Catholic school. He was like incredible. Like he really impacted. And then this guy that I told you that in my my dental school, Dr. Patrick Shirley.
Yeah.
He's still in Los Angeles. He's like my hero. And then
Is he still teaching?
he still no, he doesn't teach anymore.
Okay.
But
He's
again,
retired.
he's older. I think he's retired now. But I still once in a while see him in dental conferences. I always tell him, I owe my career to him. Because he was like a big influence. So yeah, I mean, I've had obviously, my wife is like a huge influence. My wife is super smart, and and my son too. Like they influence me to do the right things. Like I don't know if this is not getting into politics, but just the last couple of days I saw Elon Musk and Trump were like going at it on, and I was telling myself that Elon Musk doesn't have anybody like my wife or my son. If I want to do something crazy, to come and tell me, don't do this, don't go online and do this because you're gonna regret it. And of course he regretted it. Because it's one thing for me to get upset with somebody in person, but to go online and put it for the
Especially the stuff he was saying. Let's
especially
be
like
honest.
that.
Like that
I'm
was
like-
just rancid.
And because he doesn't have anybody in his life that is comfortable enough to tell him, stop, you're going to regret, sleep over it, sleep on it, and then tomorrow if you feel the same way. Anyway,
I guess when you're the richest man in the world that you don't
that's what
have
I'm saying.
anybody
That's
to
the
tell you.
problem. So anyway, so I have people like that. Of course, my wife is one of them. She makes sure that she prevented me from doing some crazy things in my life that I'm happy. She told me,
That's good.
sleep on this. If you think the same way tomorrow, I think that's always a good advice. And then, of course, those are my real people in my life. And then people that I've looked up to over the years. Steve Jobs, like, I watched every video he's ever talked to in anything. Because I'm like, what a genius. I mean, every sentence that comes out of this guy's mouth, even today, I'm like, just brilliant. I mean, it was not a coincidence that he founded Apple. He's just like really understood people. He understood just how the world works. Because you know what? Because he poked it and he asked that's what he says. He said a lot of things that were when he started Apple, he would say, why are we doing these numbers the way they're like, well, because every public company does. And he would say, why? And nobody knew. And that's where he realized that, this is not the way it's supposed to be. This is the way it is.
Yeah.
So he started questioning everything. And so I learned. So anyways, I've learned so much from Steve Jobs, like watching every video he's done, reading everything he's written. Obviously, Elon Musk is like a hero. I mean, personality stuff apart, he's just a brilliant person. I mean, he's Rockefeller and Einstein in one person, right? I feel like he's just like just see things.
He's got the
so
engineer
big.
side, and he's got the big picture business side.
He didn't study rocket science or car design, or he just learned physics.
Yeah.
But he became the best in everything. He just that just like teaches you that the same thing that he doesn't have to learn in school. You can learn it to become the best in anything by learning it, by reading books and talking to people and taking classes and talking to advisors, right? Surrounding yourself
Well,
with...
he's also saying he worked 16 to 20 hours a day.
I have no doubt.
Well, now, but I bet you tell me you have a 12-hour schedule. Now, I have a feeling you might have done more work than that before you got to where you're at, though.
But I honestly...
I mean, did you do 16-hour days?
When I needed it.
Yeah.
So my position is, I call that, finals week. Like, I can do finals week, which is like work really hard for like a short period.
Right.
But I don't like to do that long term, because long term, maybe because I'm a liberal, because I don't know, I like balance in my life.
Oh, yeah. So 12 hours, half the day.
Maximum for work, maximum.
Well, so I look at...
Sometimes I work 15 hours a day,
right.
But for like a month.
Right.
But I try to average it out to like 10 hours a day, because I do. But because to me, especially since we had our son,
right.
To me, he knows too. I mean, the number one priority in my life is Aiden. So if he has to go to school, if he wants to travel, I want to make sure that he sees the world. While I want to take, I want to teach him everything that I've learned, which is a lot, I don't want to just sit down and tell him. I want him to experience it, right? Mm-hmm. I want him to be his own person. I want him to make his own mistakes, hopefully within our guidelines. But to me, because work is important, because I feel like you need to be productive, and I feel like I can contribute a lot, and I feel alive when I create. But I always try to keep a balance between my time for myself, time for my family and friends, time for work. And so I know, as you probably know, I travel a lot. Like just the last 2 months, I've been to Japan, Korea, Singapore, Hong Kong. This weekend, I'm going to Vancouver. Last weekend, I was in Vegas. I told you we were watching Coldplay. I try to, because you have to have a balanced life, So yeah, I mean, I try to get enough sleep. But what I don't do is, I guess I don't try to waste. I mean, I watch TV, I read books, but you can do everything. I just don't sit around and waste time, I try to be productive, everything. Productive in fun, entertainment, family, travel, work.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Really? Amazing.
I try to.
I do want to talk about parenting because it seems like it's really important to you, and you deal with children.
That's right.
And you see their parents. I feel like, and you can correct me if I want to comment on this, I'm not here to badmouth anybody. It seems like parents with technology, there's disconnects with children these
100%.
days. Are you seeing that in your practice?
100%.
When you see the kids, can you see it in their eyes? Can you see it in their body language that they're maybe neglected or their parents aren't really
100%.
paying attention?
Listen, I've been practicing or working for 30 years, right? My generation, so I can tell you what happens with these kids when they get older, even like as employees or workers. My generation, we were we had work ethics. Like I remember in the 30 years that I've been as an adult working, I missed 2 days of work. And those 2 days, I even went to work and my patient said, Dr. Hoss, you're dying, you need to go home. Because I was like literally dizzy. Because I had work ethics. Like I wouldn't, if somebody gave me a job offer, I would get on the floor and kiss their feet because I was so always grateful for people giving me opportunities. But so because my parents were the last generation, they were not spoiling us. It was a very different mentality. Like we had to grow up, had to face, issues.
Play outside, talk to our friends in person.
If I did something bad at school, I would be embarrassed to tell my parents because my parents would get upset with me. Now the parents get upset with the teachers. It's absolutely nuts.
It's crazy.
The kid gets a cavity. The kid tells the dentist, "Why is my kid getting a cavity?" I'm like, "You idiot! You're the one. I'm here 2 days out of the year. Want me to put like a glue on the kid's teeth? You're the ones who." Parents are just becoming.
So they're passing the buck.
They're passing the buck. Again, just like you, I don't want to generalize, of course, but I'm saying as a
But
overall,
you're seeing this happening.
I'm seeing this as an unbelievable trend. Unfortunately, kids just are ruling now, and it's not a good thing. They become so entitled and like babies. A lot of the kids are growing up now. Again, I don't want to generalize because I have great people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, but a lot more people, adults, 20s, that I've had occasions, this is just crazy to even tell, that I've had, not me, but my managers told an employee, you didn't come, you were supposed to be at 8 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock, how come you didn't call us? So they got upset that the next day their mothers called our office complaining, why did we tell their kids that they were 2 hours late to work? This is an adult working environment. It's crazy. I mean,
it's crazy.
It's just gotten so bad that we have this group of a lot, not of course, again, nothing generalized, but we have a lot more people now that are depressed, anxious, unsatisfied. They're grown-up babies basically, because they never grew up. They were so babied during baby time. They were so hovered with parents. So I hope, you can ask my son maybe, but my son is like, we try to provide him a lot, but a lot of people that come to my house or we go out, they're like, Kami, knowing your background, I would have thought your kid was so much more spoiled, but he's so like down to earth, and it's not like I tell him be down to earth. It's just you try to be the role model, but I try to, like, if he does something wrong, I tell him, but when he does something good, I tell him. I try to tell him, what I think, and I try to also. Well, the other thing I've learned is, he looks like me a little bit, At least that's what I try to say always. But because he's a good-looking guy, of course.
Hey,
so yeah. So
we're gonna get you up here in a second, by the way.
So it took me like a year or two to learn that he's not me.
Right.
Even though he looks a little bit like me, which is a really good, important thing for parents, because parents think your kid should act like you. What I've tried to do, at least I try, I'm not a perfect person, but I try to also not only try to educate or try to guide my son about what I think is the right thing or what are the values. First of all, values are just, that's another thing why I love traveling, because I want to show him that, look, the Japanese culture is different than American culture. It doesn't mean one is right or wrong. I want you to be open to all these different cultures, different religions, different ways of doing things, because you decide then who you are and what fits your personality and what you think is the right thing. And most things are gray, nothing's black and white the way every family is like, just because, especially like, that's why I love traveling, because it gives you a different perspective. And I think makes you more humble, makes you more open-minded about different people, more accepting of cultures and ethnicities, etc. So one of the things I've tried to do as a dad is try to learn who Aiden is, not just try to what I want Aiden to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah, not just projecting.
He's
right.
his own person.
Right.
So I've tried to listen to him. Like, I'll give you an example. When he was 4 or 5, he's been going to this wonderful school called the Children's School in La Jolla. When he was like 4 or 5, he was in preschool or kindergarten, I don't remember. We said, hey, maybe it's time we take him to a bigger school, more academic, because that's how I was raised. So we took him to Country Day, in La Jolla. Mm-hmm. And he went from loving going to school in his previous school, loving, to start crying in the mornings, and I don't want to go. And then one day, 2 months into, he was bawling. And this is a 5-year-old. So my wife and I looked at it like, what are we doing to Aiden? We're projecting what we think the right school is for him, but he likes the other school so much. He's 5. He doesn't need to be no geometry at 5, or calculus. Yeah. Maybe this is so we did oh my, I'm so happy we listened to who Aiden wanted. We took him back we begged his previous school. They said, okay, if there was one empty spot, we took him back. It was the best decision we ever made. So awesome. We've learned that we push Aiden, of course, as any parent, we want him to push him. But luckily for us, he's so driven, like internally, like he's sometimes like, you should relax a little bit. Like he's really driven for everything. Puts 100% of his attention to things. And he's like, when his friends, like they do something nice at his school, every kid writes nice things about everybody else. Like, what do they see good? And a lot of kids always write by then, whatever he puts his mind into it, he does. That's one of the things.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So let me go back to the parents for a second. You see this all the time. Let's say you're talking to parents in general. What advice would you give them? You see their kids, you talk to them. What would you tell parents right now that you see that they need to do the most to switch it up a little bit for their kids?
Yeah, one is you're not their friends. I think the biggest mistake I see is parents try to be friends. We're not friends, we're parents. It's a much, much bigger responsibility to be a parent and much harder than to be a friend. A friend lets your friend do whatever you want and encourages even bad behavior, right? That's easy.
Sure.
It's easy to tell your kids, here, go watch TV, here, my iPad, iPhone, go play with it for 3 hours because I want to be with my friends. It's easy to let your kids do what the kids want to do, but it's really difficult. And your kid can have dozens of friends, but they only have one parent. So I think my advice as a parent is like, be a parent. It's a much, much bigger responsibility. It's much harder. Sometimes you have to say no. Sometimes, but your kid will eventually know that you did the right thing and loves you for it. Actually providing guidelines and guide rails and your kid knowing what's right and wrong and what you accept as behavior and what you don't. It's a positive thing. That child becomes more confident, not less confident. When you tell them, you know what, you can't stay up after 9:00 and you can't use profanity, for example, when you're in public. It's not a bad thing. It's not. The kids who the parents let to do everything because they want to be friends, they're the ones who get spoiled and rotten and out of control, and they are rude to the parents, and they grow up to acting this, and they don't understand that the society is not going to allow you to do this. Your boss is not going to allow you to do this.
How many times have you seen that in the super dentist with unruly kids?
100%.
And the parents, it's because the parents...
They just sit there. They're on their phone.
But was it the? But that's what I'm saying. I don't always think it's the kid. It's how the parents maybe have raised the kid. I'm not saying all kids are perfect, but
it's mostly the parents.
it's a reflection of the parents.
It's mostly the parents. I see them.
Right, you see it.
They're just.
You could write a book on this. I bet
know,
you could
it's
write
so
a book
sad.
on parent
I know.
psychology. All the stuff you've seen.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've seen some crazy stuff in that
crazy
department.
stuff.
I want to bring Aiden up. I want to finish this up. I have 2 more things I want to go over with you, and then we'll bring Aiden up for a quick 5-minute segment. I think
Sounds
that'd be
good.
fun. Any book recommendations for people? It could be for parents. It could be for business success. It could be for personal development. You got 3 books you'd
So
recommend.
Aiden knows this. My favorite book of all time, and that when I go to motels or hotels, they used to have a Bible. I don't know if they still do, probably in some hotels. I'm like, they should replace all these Bibles with Think and Grow Rich.
Oh yeah, Napoleon Hill.
Napoleon Hill.
Gotta love
Listen,
that book.
that book was
That's the
written
best
90
book.
years ago, whatever,
Yeah,
like 80
yeah.
years ago.
True.
Every other business book is based on that book. It's it's not just a business book; it's the way of living. Because he interviewed the most successful people.
I still listen to him daily. Today I was listening
Unbelievable.
to it on.
And I probably read that book 100 times because every time
So
I read
good.
it reminds me of something.
Yeah.
From goal setting to like just believing in something
Mindset,
and going on
yeah.
mindset and writing things and
It's
you
brilliant.
know the power of getting feedback from everyone. So Think and Grow Rich, like that goes without saying. That's like my very first favorite book, business book, or any book really, top of the line. Another book that I love that really changed my way of thinking about money is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, when you read a book, you're like, what? Like everything that I thought about money was wrong when I read that book. And luckily I read it right after I graduated from college. And it completely changed the way I thought about debt, or about money, about success. Because I don't know if you know the stories about this kid that basically has a rich, as a poor dad himself. His friend's dad is a rich dad. So his dad is like a teacher, his own actually dad, but his dad is like a business person. So he gets this advice from his dad, and then gets advice from this other dad. And through that story of how these 2 different dads give advice, you learn about, do you want to have a conservative life and play it safe, or do you want to be wealthy and have everything and have time to spend with your family? So anyway, that's like an incredible book. And then there's another book that I really love, but I'm a little bit biased towards it. Well, of course, my own book. if your mouth could talk.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a
Exactly.
pitch. What's the book?
So my book is this. I'll tell you. Well, before I do this book, so there's another book I read that also changed my life. The title of it is Sales Machine. Sales Machine. So the Sales Machine was written many years ago, and unfortunately, the person who wrote it had cancer, so he passed away. Brilliant book. It's been translated into like 30, 40 different languages, etc. So here's what happened. I lost my hearing a few years ago in my right ear, like a lot of it. Something crazy, like went from full hearing to no hearing in a second. It's called idiopathic hearing loss, means they don't know what causes it. So anyways, long story short, I wanted to go to some therapy to see if I can regain it back a little bit. So I had to go into what they call hyperbaric oxygen therapy. Have you heard of it? Mm-hmm. They put in these tanks. It's like hyper-oxygenated. It's not like just oxygen. It's like hyperbaric, pressurized. So I was going to be 40 hours in there, 20 hours, 2 sessions, 20 sessions, 2 hours each. And I went there the first time. You can't take any like phones or pens because it shatters. So I went there with nothing the first time. So they were showing these, because there were like a lot of sick people or older people in the tank, showing these old movies from the 1960s. The first 2 hours, I'm like, I'm going to die. I don't care about my hearing. 40 hours of 1960s movies. So I'm saying I'm going to bring some books with me next time, because you could take books. So and with pencil, not pen. So I take a couple of books that I was going to read. I read a couple of them. The third one was Sales Machine. So I'm like lying down like this, and because I have like this tank oxygen, and I'm like having my pencil like writing some notes. I'm like, this is good stuff. So like I'm on like the 10 page. I'm like taking notes, having like my to-do list at the end of because I don't just read books. If it's a good book, I need to put it into execution, right? This is one of my advice to everybody is like, if you read a book and you don't do something with it, why are you even reading books? So I always like make to-do lists, and then I do it while it's fresh. So I want to become part of my habits and all of that. So anyways, I was making these pages long. So an hour into it, this nurse comes to me and says, Kami, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, why? It's like, because you're breathing twice as fast as everybody else. But I was so into it, I feel like, Richard, like that my mind was on a high. Oxygen, I was so focused.
That's awesome.
So that book, it gave me the idea of writing my own book. It is a business book, but basically it was about how you use market data to sell services or products. So what I mean by that is this. If I tell you, did you know that the number one disease in the world among kids, chronic disease, is dental disease, impacts a child confidence? Kids with dental problems are 3 times more likely to miss school, 4 times more likely to get below average GPA. They make, when they get older, $250,000 less than someone who has nice teeth.
Wow.
Now if I tell you, would you like to buy my toothpaste for kids, which is the safest and most effective? It's much more like, now again, I kind of connected them really quickly, but you get it.
Yeah.
When I use market data, is a much more powerful thing to tell you why my service is so important in my products than if I tell you, do you want to buy my toothpaste? It's $2 more than Colgate, but it has like 10% more fluoride. You're going to say, no, Colgate is a better brand. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
So anyway, that's a short version of it.
The benefit outweighs the feature.
Yeah, it was more of a, hey, you need to educate people so they understand. So anyway, so I read that book. I got statistics. I wrote my book. But the reason I want to tell you this is because then many years later, I became friends with the current CEO of that company who has the book and has a training center. They have coaching business. Is the daughter of the person who wrote the book and passed away. So she updated that book with the second edition in the memory of her dad, because some of the older marketing ideas were like send postcards. There was no internet back then. So she modernized the book. 2 pages in the new version of that book is about the super dentist, about some marketing campaign that I did after COVID, that I got hundreds of thousands of dollars of free press. And so she said, Kami, you're brilliant. You used some of our ideas so brilliantly that I want to use your story in the new edition. So the super dentist is in the sales machine new edition.
No way. Yeah. That's a great story.
It's like a full circle.
Yes, I love it. I love that. Okay, I'm going to get Aiden up next, but I want to ask you one more thing.
Please.
What is your advice for other inspiring business leaders right now? Let's say they might be graduating high school or college, or maybe they're in their 30s. They've tried over and over to do something. They keep failing, but they still have some fire in them. How would you help somebody like that if you were to talk to them one-on-one?
So it depends. If they're younger, like I was just telling this to my son. I'm like, Aiden, if I were you, you know what? I'll be all over AI, because I can't even get enough of AI myself. I'm like, I feel like my wife is gonna think I'm cheating with ChatGPT one of these days, because I'm talking to ChatGPT more than. I'm like, I just feel like this is gonna be just mind-boggling what's happening right now in the world. I mean, we can't even imagine the world in 5 years, 10 years. I mean, so anything AI related would be, I think, crazy amazing if you can find a passion in it. That's what I would do if I was going to start again, do something. If you're young, I mean, if any age really, I think, because the AI is going to be like, I can't even imagine. I mean, there's just so much excitement in everything AI, So anyways, that would be like my thing. But the other thing is, you got to find, my friends who have, read my book, which is an oral systemic health book. They always tell me, Kami, you should write a business book, and you should write it. You should title it Drive, because you have so much drive. How do you get your drive? How are you so driven? I'm like, I don't know. I was telling Aiden, like,
coffee.
I know. No, it must be a little bit of genetics, because my son has 100 times more drive than I do, and I don't know. I wish there was so I would say find that drive. I guess the only way to do it, other than genetics, either is find a passion, right? Because if you're passionate about something, it gives you that. Because I can't tell you how hard it is to build a company. It's so hard. There is so many headaches. Like as a CEO, as a founder especially, all the problems come to me. So I'm on a daily basis. It's failure, complaints.
Hello,
you know how it is.
I like business.
And you need to.
It never stops.
It never stops.
Even when you have good amount of money, it still doesn't stop.
It's never. Like, so unless you love it and you're passionate about it, and you have that drive, you're gonna stop. You're gonna give up. So you better love it. And also, if you're not gonna, and it's not like find what you love. Is love what you do. They're two different things. I think a lot of people make a mistake of constantly looking for something they love and they never find it. But you gotta get into it, everything you do with a lot of passion, and then you end up loving it because you end up getting good at it. So you gotta love what you do. Not just try to find something that you're never gonna find. Try to be positive about it and and think big. That's another thing. I feel like most people think too small. People think, I want to make a toothpaste. I would throw up if I wanted to make a toothpaste. I don't want to make a toothpaste. Everybody else makes a toothpaste. I want to change the world. I want to fix the number one disease in the world. Let me ask you a question, or anybody who's listening. Which one gets you up in the morning at 4:30 in the morning? Trying to make a toothpaste or trying to fix the number one disease in the world?
That one.
Of course. Because it's such a big idea that gives you that. So those are my suggestions, Go big or go home, as they say. Go big. Because I have the same amount of time and resources, or I guess time and energy, and that Tim Cook has, who runs a $3 trillion company, that Elon Musk has, than Donald Trump has, or Biden, whoever, the presidents, the CEOs of multi-trillion-dollar companies, and me and you, we all have the same amount of time. So it's not like, and we all wear our pants the same way. We chew food. It's like we're all the same people. And I promise you, it's not like one person is, maybe Elon Musk is an exception from being smart, but I don't think Tim Cook is any smarter than any of us, or majority of the people. For sure, our presidents usually aren't. So it's not talent. It's more of an effort, right? And it's the energy and how much effort, and just accept failure. Find the passion, work really hard. It's funny. I just read this, which is really true. So you've heard the cliche. They say, "Don't work harder, work smarter." And the guy said, "Yeah, except if you're working." Your competitors are smarter, then you have to work smarter and harder, which is true. In this day and age, you need to work harder and smarter, because no one's going to sit there for you to be smarter. Everybody's competing to be smarter. So you got to work smarter. You got to work harder. You need to make yourself be your own competition, and it's fun. It's not like you need to go crazy doing it, right?
Yeah.
Find something that you love it and you're passionate, and then share it. If you have a problem, share it. Get advisors, get coaches. I have right now, 2 coaches, business coaches. Because what? Because I don't know. I need somebody to tell me, hey, what do you think about this? Have you considered this? Maybe connect me with some resources that I need to do. Bring their own experiences in, all of that.
I think I love everything you said, but let's talk about the D word. Does discipline play any role? Time blocking, working out, eating right, reading the right stuff. Does discipline,
of course, 100%,
play a part in? So if you're not disciplined right now and you want to be successful, maybe you're delusional.
Yeah.
Right.
I think discipline is. I always joke around that my friends, if you say Kami's hungry, they look at their watch. If it's 12, they say, yeah, he's hungry, because they know I'm such a routine person.
Yeah.
Every morning at 4:30, I do this. Then I do this.
Routines
are so important.
That's important. We didn't talk about that, but I'm happy to hear that.
That's kind of like a version of discipline, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, routine. I have my morning routine,
yeah,
and it's making me better. I stopped doing it, and my life was going off track. I just
100%.
started it. I just started mine back 5 days ago. It's changed my life in 5 days. The same morning routine. I'm like, what? How did that happen?
It's so good to have a routine.
That's
even
crazy.
Little things, like other than not just like hourly what you do, but like I was telling Aiden, like I never lose. Oh, now I'm gonna lose it because I told you. But I never like misplace, I should say, my key, wallet, and my phone, because they're always in the same position. My phone is in my left pocket.
Whoa.
My phone, my wallet, and my keys are in the right. So I touch it when I'm leaving, and I know it's there. And I've done it like that because I didn't want my key to scratch my phone. So I thought about it 5 seconds, and now it's always the same way. So that's a simple example of when you do things routinely, you also have to think about it because you've already thought it through. You solve that one small problem, then then you can concentrate on bigger problems in your life. That's why you've probably seen Mark Zuckerberg or Steve Jobs and a lot of CEOs. They wear the same shirts because they don't want to think. They don't want to spend that energy every day thinking about what they're gonna wear. Because there's so many important decisions they have to make throughout the day. So what clothes I want to wear is not one of them.
Right. That's brilliant. I love it. Well, Kami, I want to wrap up and bring Aiden here for a few questions. Thank you so much for all the time we spent together.
Good to see
the
you.
advice.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. Man, I talked a lot more than I thought I would.
I know, you were like an hour is going to be a long time.
When you told me an hour, I'm like, an hour? What am I going to say for an hour? But I forget that I can
We could have kept going, but I want to get Aiden in here for 5 minutes. Watch your head, Aiden, when you stand up.
Good.
Sneak out from that camera. Take the headphones off. Kami, watch your head. Yeah, you could just hang out there by there. That's fine. Wow. Well, we have a special, it looks like we have a special guest here. The son of our inspiring business leader, soon to be an inspiring business leader yourself. Are we working on that now, Aiden? Are you going to be an inspiring business leader?
Yeah.
What does an inspiring business leader mean to you?
I think it means that someone is planning to have a business in the future and thinking of ideas on how to do it and actually working towards it in the moment.
I love that. What do you want to be when you grow up in your adulthood?
I want to solve a lot of the problems that the world has today. And I think that would make a very big impact on pretty much everything because the world is filled with problems today. So I think if I could solve a bunch of problems that the world has, I think that would really benefit myself and the rest of humanity.
What are some problems right now that you see that you're passionate about trying to solve or solving?
I want to improve, especially the younger generation, because they're going to be the ones that grow up and kind of rule the civilization at some point. I want to improve their discipline and how honest they are with themselves. Because I feel like today, there's two kind of groups of young people now. There's a group that is very disciplined and there's a group that is very lazy. Some people in the younger generation have a lot of discipline. They have morning routines, they go to the gym, they do all the good habits. But there are a lot of people in the younger generation that have a lot of bad habits. They play video games all day, they sleep very poorly, and they don't know where they're going with their life.
Wow, very observant. Tell me about your mom and your dad. I mean, they're magnificent people from what I know, but you're their son. What's the skinny on them? What do you take away from them on a daily basis? What have they taught you that you just kind of hold on to or you really appreciated?
Yeah, good question. I've learned a lot from them, of course. I have really learned from them kindness and patience through hard times. And they have gone through a lot of hard times in the past, and they did really good during those times. So I have especially learned patience from them. I've also learned discipline and hard work from them, because they have put in a lot of discipline and hard work to be able to create the Super Dentist and Super Mouth today. So I really learned that from them.
Great. Do you have any feedback for them?
Any feedback for them?
What advice would you give them?
That's a tricky question.
You're going to be an inspiring business leader. Yeah. There's no wrong answer.
Maybe to think about actions more before you do them. So think about things that can go wrong in the action that you're about to do and things that can go well in the action you're trying to do. And try to prevent the things from going on without delaying the action, of course. And try to prevent anything bad from coming from it while still taking the action and making sure all the good that can come from it comes from it.
Very good. What do you think, if there's one thing you could do to make the world a better place right now, what would it be?
I think make the younger generation realize what they're doing what of it is good and what of it is bad. Because I think just realizing that, it makes them more honest with themselves. It would be really hard to do that because when people today are very dishonest with themselves and they tell themselves that they're doing the right thing, even though they know deep inside that they're doing the wrong thing. But that would create a very good impact.
So like accountability.
Yeah, accountability.
What do you think about AI? I mean, looking in the future, 5, 10, 20 years, are you working with AI at this age, or are you hearing about it? Like, where is your generation going? You're 13, right?
Yeah.
Are 13-year-olds using AI or thinking about it at all?
I think some are and some aren't. I think it just depends on if you do it or not. I don't think it depends on what age you are or anything. So I think just like how some people of older age are using AI and some are not, some people in the younger generation are using AI and some are not. And it can be very beneficial. It can also be harmful if you just waste all your time on it, but it can be beneficial to get answers to questions you have or to try to work on something productive.
Well said. What about social media? Social media good, or social media bad, or social media in the middle? Thoughts?
I think mostly social media is bad, but it has some good aspects. People can use social media to learn and develop themselves and to try to make money on social media. However, I think that most people use social media just to scroll and watch some videos that won't help them or read some posts and start subconsciously, not consciously, but subconsciously thinking that everyone on there is better than them because the people on social media show the best parts of their lives, show that they went to this place or have this car. So I think subconsciously that just makes you feel like worse than everyone else.
Right. Even when your life's really good, you're like, look at this person on vacation. And it's an issue. I love it when people share the real stuff, like the dirt, like what's going on that's not so good. It's like, oh, I like that, right? Because we can relate to that. You're going to show me this fancy trip to Bali, or you're going to talk about, hey, I had a problem with this person and I'm feeling sad right now. I always, it's always like, oh, that's nice. Somebody's actually being real on there. But that's like 1 out of every 20 posts, everything else is sunshine and rainbows. Life is perfect, right? We know that's not always the case. Well, very good. I want to wish you well in your endeavors in life.
Thank you.
What would be a piece of advice that you would give adults right now, like what you're seeing, maybe parents or leaders? What do you think that you could tell them from your perspective on how to behave, be better, and live with purpose?
I think my advice would be a lot different if they're parents or not parents. If they're parents, I would tell them to make sure their child grows up good, or if their child has already grown up, to make sure that they spend time with their children and to give them good advice. Because their children are going to be the ones that take over this entire generation, or the entire world, because people will pass on eventually, and the younger generation will become the oldest generation at some point. So I think making sure that the younger generation, their children, have the best advice and do the best things would really help. But if they're not parents, I would advise them to spend a lot of time on themselves and their family and try to improve themselves, try to do some good habits, start going to the gym, meditating, doing whatever that they want that is good, and to start trying to improve their lives in a positive way by increasing their discipline, increasing their drive and things. And funnily enough, I heard you guys talking about drive earlier. I think that a way to increase drive on anything is to fail at that thing, because then you're going to succeed more in that thing. And if you have a lot of success in a certain topic, success creates dopamine, like brain chemical or whatever. So you get kind of addicted to doing that good thing if you get a lot of success from it. So that gives you drive and motivation to go and do that thing.
My man, I'm going to call you, you're like a young Yoda. I can't believe it. Last we met, I mean, you knew things then, but that, like, what was it, a year ago? You've grown so much. Well, man, thank you for the advice.
Thank you.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too.
Great to see you, man. This is our next inspiring business leader. Hopefully, when the podcast is still going on 15 years from now, you're gonna be just really rocking it for people. That was solid advice. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us for Inspiring Business Leaders. We'll see you next time.